how do you create $1 billion brand? People are expecting me to say like, oh, this is the hiring technique, this is the marketing technique, this is how you run Facebook ads. All of that is nonsense.
There's the action, the physical world side of building a business, but 90% of it is spiritual, internal work. Your story, I think, highlights that better than anyone else. You are co-founder of MaryRuth's, one of the top wellness brands in the entire universe.
The best founders who think unlimited and have this deserving belief system about what they're meant to manifest, they attract the best talent. It all depends on what you believe. I know many founders that they are able to be successful up to a point, and then something happens. They get stuck.
I get stuck at that 100,000 level or a million level. How do you break through it?
The first thing to start with is
David, welcome to Powerhouse Women.
Thank you for having me.
This is a very esteemed honor. I will let you know that there have been only a handful in 600 plus episodes of men to sit in the seat.
Is that right?
On an episode of Powerhouse Women, and not for any reason other than there's just so many brilliant women to interview that I haven't run out of them yet.
Agreed.
But I'm just really so honored to have you here because
you.
I was sharing before we started how your content specifically has been, life-changing is a heavy word to use, but in a season where I've been just up against some of the hardest challenges I've ever experienced all at once, I think that we find the content that we need and that we resonate with for that season. And it really has been yours. So I'm excited to share this with the community today.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I told you how the first episode interview that I listened to you on was one on the Human Design podcast with Jenna.
Jenna's, yes.
And it was this conversation about the intelligence of pain. And in the season where I was trying to make sense of a lot of pain, a lot of things that just were very painful to go through, I think it just spoke to the deeper knowing within me that the pain was really here for a purpose. And I would love to kind of unpack this understanding of the wisdom, the spiritual principles you teach through the lens of how does pain actually expand us to be able to receive more?
Well, let me ask you a question first. What kind of pain do you think your audience is going through? Like what comes to mind when I ask? And I'm asking because instead of just giving a general understanding or spiritual lesson that Kabbalah gives us, I want to go deeper into some of the examples of pain that your audience might be experiencing and maybe touch on those examples more deeply. Okay,
so I just posed this question to the community, and a few of the responses that came back mentioned really, really specific things, challenging things. Some of them being loss, so loss of a loved one. Others being more like rejection, death, loss of a relationship, like rejection, the feeling of rejection when maybe it's a breakup, a friendship breakup. And then the pain of waiting or feeling like you're waiting for something to, for example, someone shared trying to conceive and just being really disappointed. Those were the three specific examples that first came to mind when you asked that question.
Okay. All of which I personally have experienced as well. So a lot of what I will share is from what the wisdom of Kabbalah has given to me over the last 25 years of my studies. I will share from a personal point of view, but also I've been coaching people for the last 20 years in this path and this wisdom. So I've gotten to experience vicariously through the lives of many people what they're going through. So what I'll share more broadly is the wisdom of Kabbalah is universal, ancient spiritual wisdom that explains the blueprint of your soul. It explains the why that we're here and why we go through what we go through. And definitely explains why we go through pain and certain challenges. Explains our soul's journey from past life into this life, why we chose the parents we have, why we chose the siblings that we have, why we chose the boyfriend or the girlfriend that we had in high school and college, why you were attracted to this man that you married, and why you even brought those children to the world, and why certain souls take time to come and it's hard to conceive, why miscarriages happen. These are all topics that we address with the wisdom of Kabbalah. And I also want to say, Kabbalah, a lot of people think, well, is this a religion? Is this something new age? Kabbalah is a spiritual technology that's existed since the beginning of time. and actually is a foundation of the major religions in this world. So my audience is from every religious background. And what they've told me is that Kabbalah has helped them understand the spiritual side of what they already connect to and believe in. I think it's important to say for people so they understand, where is this all coming from?
Yeah.
So the foundation of what Kabbalah teaches is that there's a force in this world that we call the creator. Some people call it God. Some people call it the universe. We can all agree that there's this endless positive force that has created everything that we see in this world. What the creator created is only one thing. It's called the vessel. This vessel is a desire to receive the light of the creator. The vessel comprises of all the souls of humanity and comprises all the kingdoms. So essentially, when we were created to receive the beneficence of the creator. That means our soulmate, fulfillment of all kinds, joy, happiness, certainty, peace of mind, love. Every desire that we have is a desire that the creator created in order to be fulfilled. When our soul came to this world, however, we weren't born with all of these desires fulfilled. We actually come to a world of darkness. We're not born with our soulmate. We're not born knowing what path to take in life. Everything is kind of confusing and mixed. We don't know how sometimes we're going to pay our bills. We don't know when we will conceive. We don't know when people will leave us or when we will go through rejection. And that is by design. Why? Because the soul basically said, I do not want to receive this light for free. I want to come to a world of darkness where I can earn the light of the creator. I want to earn my soulmate spiritually. And in the same way, we all know we have to earn money to pay our bills. Or there are laws like gravity in this world, scientific laws we all have to abide by. There are spiritual laws. And one of them is to earn our fulfillment spiritually. Our soul made a celestial contract with the creator that said, don't give me anything until I've spiritually earned it. So what does that mean? Kabbalah explains the way you spiritually earn everything in life is that our soul comes to this world with baggage. Kabbalah calls it tikkun, which literally means the correction of the soul. Our soul comes with baggage, which are all the fears that we have. And we actually choose these dynamics in our lives. We choose the people who leave us. We choose the people who hurt us. We choose the people who take advantage of us. We choose parents that will be conducive to help us see what our fears are that we came to the world with, so that when we see them, we can acknowledge them and transform them. So it's interesting. If I have a fear of abandonment, I will choose parents who are avoidant or parents who get divorced. There's so many spiritual calculations happening when souls meeting each other. We think that we're the ones choosing. The truth is, our soul is choosing these dynamics, knowing full and well that they are absolutely the perfect dynamic for us to achieve our perfection. The problem is when people don't know that this is happening, and Kabbalah helps enlighten us, and when people don't know Kabbalah or spirituality, they feel that they're the effect of all these painful things. And when we feel that we're the effect, we become victims, we feel empty, we feel lack, and we end up doing more and more reactive actions, which cause our soul to get dimmer and dimmer and disconnect from the light of the creator. So how do I connect to this light, to this energy, which then removes darkness from my life and gives me all the fulfillment that I'm looking for? When I become like the creator. So there's one main way that we learn how to become like the creator. And before I continue, is there anything you want to ask or say from this point on, or should I just keep going?
No, this is great. Yeah.
So I don't usually give this long of an intro, but I feel like maybe in this case we need to.
I think it's important because, this is a newer approach to things that we have talked about on the podcast before, and understanding the context is so important. So keep going.
Okay,
you're doing great.
That's probably why I feel called to literally give you 5 seminars in a 6-minute period.
Kabbalah 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, you're getting Kabbalah 1, 2, and 3 right now, in the Cliff Notes version. So in order to connect to the world of miracles, and we will apply this to business and relationships and family in a moment. In order to connect to the world of miracles, what will happen is you have a desire for something. So you say, I want to have a child. I want to find my soulmate. I want to make more prosperity, have more abundance. You put that desire out there. Now, first, the reason why you have this desire to begin with is because the energy of that fulfillment already exists, causing you to desire it.
Okay, I actually want to like underline that, because this is really important. You wouldn't desire it if it didn't exist for you to receive.
That's right.
Yeah.
If I ask, for example, a 10-year-old girl, do you want to have a baby? She wouldn't even know what I'm asking. She would be like, I don't want to have a baby. Like, I don't want to have a child. Why? Why does she not have a desire to have a child? Well, she probably doesn't have the reproductive ability to, but let's say I asked the 14-year-old girl, do you want to have a baby? She'd probably say no. Why? Because the soul of the baby is the one that gives you the desire, and that soul isn't hovering around her. The moment you say, you know what, I want to bring a child to the world, you have this desire from deep down inside you. It's because the soul of that child wants to be born to you and is asking you to reveal it. So for the people that feel like, you know, I want to get pregnant and I can't, and it's not working, you need to know the only reason you have this desire is because your child is there. Now, that could be a child you get through adoption. That could be a child you get through IVF. That could be, there's many different ways that this soul could come to you, but you have to be open. But if you have the desire, it means it exists. If you have a desire to be a millionaire, it's because the wealth is there. Now, it could be in the hands of somebody else holding on to that wealth until you're ready for it. That's how powerful our spiritual work is. So everyone who's listening, you need to know that if you desire it, it's meant for you, number one. And number two, if you do your work, which Kabbalah details, and we'll speak a couple topics on it today. If you do your work, there's nothing that will stop that miracle from coming to you. If 8 billion people in this world tried to stop it from coming to you, they still would not have the power, because the creator is stronger than the people. And when the light is revealed, the darkness goes away. That's the bottom line. So what's the first way we can earn this light? When you have a desire, it means it wants to be revealed. Now, as soon as you desire some energy, you actually draw that energy close to you, but that energy cannot come to be revealed into you because we're still holding on to some negativity. We have to let go of the negativity in order to let the new light in. And this is pretty logical for most people. It's like, if you're in a relationship that's toxic, you kind of have to let that go to create space for something that's beautiful. You can't have it both ways. You know, it's like a person wants to smell good. They can't just keep putting a cologne over their body odor. Like, you got to take a shower, you got to clean yourself out before you can smell good again. And so what happens the moment we have a desire for something great in our lives, challenges will emerge that will awaken the toxicity that's inside of you, spiritual toxicity, and it will come to the surface. And it's very interesting. If you actually look back in your life, every time you set a goal, you said, I want something on any level, what would usually follow right after that is some kind of chaos, negativity, or a challenge that will then bring out of you your soul's negativity that you've been carrying for lifetimes. So you may say, I want abundance. And then all of a sudden you get sued. You may say, I want to find my soulmate. And all of a sudden your ex comes back into the picture, and that toxicity starts over and over again. Or your anger issues come up, or your fear of abandonment comes up, or your control issues come up. You may say that you want to create prosperity, and then all of a sudden one of your children start acting up again in school, or there's a bullying situation, and then that all of a sudden your instincts come out. This part of you don't like comes out. So what's happening here? Well, when you asked for sustenance, the energy of sustenance came to you and said, I can come in and manifest. I've been wanting to manifest in your life. I've been meant to manifest in your life. But you're holding on to this grudge that you have against, I don't know, your mom or your dad. And until you heal that, we can't bring this prosperity in. Until you actually stop being avoidant with your husband or your wife and start to have real conversations and heal this relationship between the two of you, that child can't come in. And so you realize that all of the things that are being delayed have nothing to do besides us becoming more like the Creator. And this amazing universe is designed in such a way that we will always be shown in one of two ways what we need to change. It's called the mirror or the trigger. We will attract people who will bother us. And every time we are bothered by someone, it's a reflection of something we need to change. Either they are mirroring something we need to change. For example, let's say you're even watching TV and I don't know, you're watching something in politics, And you see a political figure acting in a certain way and it bothers you. Like, how could he or she be this way? And you're like, literally, like, it gets under your skin. The reason why it bothers you is because whatever that person is doing, even 5% of it exists in you. You say, well, no, I'm not like this person. Well, this person, maybe you find that they're very entitled or they have a big ego. And then you say, well, I'm not like that. The truth is, if we look at your children, your relationship with your children, your relationship with your spouse, or your relationship with your employees, or your relationship with someone, there's entitlement there. There's lack of appreciation there. There's control there. So the reason you're getting bothered by this person on the television is because it's reflecting something that you have with your kids. It's very hard for us to acknowledge that. So that's the mirror. The trigger would be someone, let's say you have an impatience issue, and someone starts driving very slowly in front of you. And you're trying to get somewhere all the time. And all of a sudden, the Creator blesses you with slow people everywhere you go. Slow, everyone's slow. Your children become slow. Like the bedtime routine becomes long.
The whole world just slows down.
The whole world slows down to trigger your lack of certainty, because impatience is really just a lack of certainty. The same way anger is just really hurt. And laziness is really just fear. So the Creator is trying to tell you, hey, I want you to become like me. Get to a place of complete certainty. And the reason why you're constantly frantic and constantly manic and constantly trying to get so much done is because you have a lack of certainty. In fact, the most successful people that I met in my life, in fact, I went on a walk right before I came here in the morning with, I think is arguably one of the most successful people in the world, this person. And how he came to me, there's a very interesting story in walking. And what I learned from him in our conversation, it was a 2-hour conversation, and I learned from him something so powerful. I try to learn something from each person I meet. He doesn't work that hard. He is a 10-figure net worth, powerful human, and he never has really worked that hard. Meaning he's always like, oh, I gotta get everything.
Like not frantic.
Not frantic. Yeah. His consciousness is doing the work. He thinks so big that it's almost like his energy is moving the pieces, not his body. And there's a patience he has. He's always surrendering. If a deal is not to his liking, he'll completely let go of the deal. He's not afraid. I picked up on so many different energies. It was very powerful just to hear him speak and how he does things. And then I realized we all have 24 hours in a day. He just knows how to use the 10 hours that he's working in a much more productive way with certainty. And he kept saying, he said, I need to work even more to have more certainty, because if I had more certainty, then more will come in. But I'm overcompensating by trying to get myself involved in everything.
Yeah.
So that could be the trigger. There's triggers, and the mirrors and triggers are happening all day long to show us how to become like God. And if we shoot the messenger, then we have to repeat the process all over again.
I mean, just even that alone is really a masterclass on how to scale a business, how to have the relationships that we want. And this is the part of your story that I connected with so deeply, because I think I've always known that there's the action, the physical world side of building a business, but 90% of it is spiritual, internal work. And your story, I think, highlights that better than anyone else. You are co-founder of MaryRuth, one of the top wellness brands in the entire universe. I'm sure, like, they checked Mars, and there's not a bigger one on Mars that we know of.
Safe to say.
And I love how you share that you don't actually know that much about business.
Yeah.
So fill everyone in on the story of how your life unfolded, such that you've actually birthed along with MaryRuth this business, but not from a place. Like when you say not from a place of trying to control, like actual surrender, really grounding yourself into spiritual principles first, that is not the norm. And it's something that I think everyone listening to this podcast is going to really grab hold of.
Well, my background is that I started Kabbalah at 15. I'm 40 now, but I started Kabbalah at 15. I was a student for about 4 years, and I graduated college when I was 19. And I said, instead of going to grad school, I wanted to actually what was fulfilling for me was this wisdom. And I thought, well, I had a trajectory to go out there and make money and be a businessman. But then I said, this is more fulfilling. So I joined a nonprofit. I teach Kabbalah for charity 24/7. That's what I did. So I began to travel the world and teach and do private coaching. And it was one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. I continue to do it till today in a different capacity. I was 29, so 9 years after that, I got married. And MaryRuth and I, we were broke. We had nothing. I had nothing. She had nothing. And what was interesting was I was just teaching full time, but not getting paid for it because it's the nonprofit world. And she had come from a lot of debt because her brother and father suddenly passed away. And it kind of was a very, very tragic situation that plunged their family into personal debt. But she was into health and wellness because her mom also got sick and she had to nurse her mom back to health. So it got into health and wellness. So she said, I'm going to get into health and wellness and hopefully I'll make some money from that. And I said, well, maybe I should quit my job teaching Kabbalah and get a job so we can pay for our bills and pay for our debt. One of the most powerful things MaryRuth ever did for me is she said, no, this is how you bring light to the world. This is your passion. I never want you to leave it. The Creator will show us a way to manifest prosperity without you having to compromise what you love. And right then, I just want to share like that. I get emotional when I think about it because it's such a spiritual lesson. When you are with a partner, because of fear and lack, you might have the proclivity to tell them to stop doing what is maybe their gift in order to like pay a bill. And what she did is because she believed in me, it opened up my consciousness and my soul to actually, I think it was a few weeks later, I don't know exactly what the timing was, but shortly thereafter, that the idea came to both of us to start a liquid vitamin company. And we didn't think it was going to be big. We just said, we actually just thought we'd create a liquid vitamin she could just sell to her clients, maybe make a few extra $1,000 a month. But finally she came up with a formulation. We still had no money and, we had to beg somebody to make a few bottles for us. And then we put it up on Amazon and then it sold. And the seed level of this company was really her belief in me and not coming from a place of fear or lack when she could have easily. And, I'm a man, I should be a provider and all these things. And she said, who cares about that? Like, I love you for who you are. I didn't marry you for your money. You don't have any, and she could have had anybody and she chose me for whatever reason. And that was the seed level of the brand. And what happened after that was I never quit my day job. So from morning till night, I still volunteered my time till about 10 p.m. every night. I would coach during the day and I would teach 1 or 2 seminars at night till 10 p.m. I'd get home around 10:30. We'd have dinner, we'd talk, whatever, go to bed around 11:30. And then I would stay up till 2 a.m. learning graphic design, marketing, supply chain, all that. MaryRuth during the day would kind of do all the other half of the business and also cater to clients at the same time. And it was one miracle after another. And then her mom, Colleen, helped us, and she was a prior CFO, so she handled all the finances and all the day-to-day operations. And it was just the three of us for 5 years until I think we got to 10 million of revenue. So we didn't hire one employee. We couldn't afford to hire one employee for the first 5 years. And then we hired our first assistant once we hit 10 million of revenue. And it was one miracle after another. I had no experience. She had no experience, but truly, because our lives were dedicated to other people and we had this wisdom of Kabbalah that was teaching us about manifestation and consciousness and certainty, and at the same time to work on ourselves, it kept expanding our soul, our vessel, and one miracle after another came. And it's been 10 years and it's literally been one miracle after another. We bootstrapped this thing until about the 8th year. We finally brought on one partner, one investor, because we realized to get to a global level, because we kind of hit that US market and we're like, how do we get to the next level? We need someone who's kind of done this before. We brought in one investor and they came in and they looked at our books and they said, how in the world are you guys running this company? What is you have not, they were in shock because now, we had 100, by then we had 100 employees. It was the biggest vitamin company on Amazon. It was growing at a huge pace and they were in shock. And I remember hearing that and I'm like, I know it's because of the energy of what the founders bring and the employees bring from consciousness. And I go all around the world today talking to founders or people who are starting businesses or have businesses, just doubling down on, I have this seminar, like, how do you create $1 billion brand? And people are expecting me to say like, oh, this is the hiring technique, this is the marketing technique, this is how you run Facebook ads. All of that is nonsense. Yes, there's technique. And yes, you need to have the right technique to do all those things. But it all starts with the consciousness of the founders. And the one thing I'll share that is every founder, whether you're just starting, in the middle, or even if you're already making 100 million a year, it doesn't matter. It's the same lesson. Your belief system about receiving and deserving is 90% of the success of your employees, your customers' desire to buy your product, and the greatness of your product.
Yeah, that right. I mean, I'm like, can we hang here and go a lot deeper? Because that alone could shift everything for people this year. The limitations in our beliefs about receiving, our beliefs about our entire relationship with the entities that we're bringing to life. I mean, that's the thing. I think listening to you share the story. I've done your Kabbalah 1, 2, 3, the prosperity course, and especially listening to the nuances of, again, a lot of people say they're infusing spiritual principles and all these things, but then to pair it with the way that you have this unlimited capacity to receive and you really believe it is what, from the outside looking in, was the biggest thing that impacted me in the story and pointed me to places where I had a lot of work to do.
I love that. There's a famous understanding of how they train the Navy SEALs. And you could be in the best shape of your life. You could be smart, you could be talented, you could be physically fit. But when you go to BUD/S training, there's a reason why, I don't know what the acceptance rate is, like 5% of the hundreds of people who go to Navy SEAL training actually make it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they teach is when your body is like ready to shut down and you think you're about to die and you have not any more energy or stamina to push through that program, they basically scientifically say, and I think the number was 20%, your body has only just gone to 20% of its capacity.
Really?
And the other 80% is still in reserve. But the reason why your body's telling you you're about to die is because that's its defense mechanism. So you actually have this other 80% left. And what really I've been taught through the wisdom of Kabbalah and my mentors, and I hope to bring to the world, is Elon Musk, and I use him as an extreme example, his belief system about colonizing Mars and bringing consciousness to Mars, he thinks it's easy to do that. And because he believes in it, and not only believes in it, but believes it's easy and believes in a certainty in it, all of a sudden his consciousness is able to draw so much energy that manifests in the right talent, in the right laws being passed. Like his consciousness is passing laws practically. He finds the right lobbyists to change those laws. He attracts the right engineers. He actually creates engineers from nothing. Engineers that know how to take a spacecraft to Mars becomes materialized because his belief system draws down that energy that does so. And if you believe it's easy to do something and you believe you are destined to do something and you hold on to that certainty, then the whole universe begins to accommodate the manifestation of that through sending you the right people, guiding you in the right way. All the social media algorithms all of a sudden change and serve you different type of content. All of a sudden, the people that were once going to come into your life become blocked and they can no longer come, and a higher vibration of people start to come. And it all depends on what you believe. When I look at the employees of a company, I can tell right away what's going on in the mind of the founders. Because the best founders who think unlimited and have this deserving belief system about what they're meant to manifest, they attract the best talent. In fact, HR can't do their job and headhunters won't be able to be successful if the founder is limited in their mind.
Right.
And so let's make that practical. I know many founders that they are able to be successful up to a point, and then something happens, chaos comes in, and they can't grow their business past this point. They get stuck. That means that they have a belief system that they don't deserve more than that for whatever reason. Maybe they think that money is evil. Maybe they think that if I grow too much, then I was just talking to somebody and I said, I actually think you could be $1 billion brand. And their first remark to me was, he said, yeah, but I don't like to have a big team. So right away, they revealed something. They believe that a big team is a nuisance. And so every time maybe they're going to get a new client that will manifest more revenue, they will subconsciously hope that that client doesn't sign up so that they don't have to hire more people because they don't like a big team.
This actually was one of the most fundamental things that I learned from your content that I'd never heard it put that way. We talk a lot about where we have limiting beliefs or fears that are blocking us. But when you put it into the terms, I've even shared this on the podcast before, of a competing desire.
Yes.
So it's not just that, I don't know if I believe it. It's like, no, there's a part of me that does not want it.
Yes.
And you talk about how that limits our ability to receive. And then even more importantly, okay, so if we realize like, oh, I get stuck at that 100,000 level or a million level, how do you break through it?
And that's what's so powerful, because the first thing I would want everyone who's listening just to start with, because you can get overwhelmed learning too much. The first thing to start with is, it's not that you don't want it. I'm sure there's 60% of you that wants it, but you have to look at your desires as like a whole pie chart. And whatever you say you want is probably not 100% of what you want. If I did an MRI scan of your soul and looked at all your desires, I would see, okay, there is this, maybe 40% of you wants to be a millionaire, but another 30% of you wants freedom, which translates into not having to deal with employees, not having to deal with HR. I know somebody who just had a startup asked me to invest in his company. And I looked at him and I said, I have a rule, just my rule. I'm not saying it's the right rule. My rule is I don't invest in companies where the founder hasn't been successful once already. Why? Because there's so much that just they don't see yet. And there's so much of their own soul's correction that comes out in that first child that they have. Now, there are people who only invest in venture type companies. It's just not I like to kind of invest in more of a mature company. And it's interesting. I said, but I'll mentor you and I'll guide you. I just don't want to have a financial investment. He comes back 2 months later and says, I said, how's the business going? He's like, it's going great and the sales are amazing. And I said, but what was the issue? I didn't realize that I have to deal, the things I have to deal with all day long with HR and legal and compliance. And like, I just want to grow the company. But all of a sudden this person's writing to me and saying, well, why is our lunch break so short? And why can't we get Fridays off? And do you have paternity leave? And he's like, I don't want to deal with any of that. I said, exactly. That's why I didn't want to invest, because I know you're a good salesperson. But I also know there's going to be a big part of this business you're not going to want to do. And then you're going to have competing desires, because at some point you're going to realize, I hate managing a bunch of people. And so when that new client comes on and says, hey, here's a huge book of business, there's going to be a part of you that's going to realize, well, that means that I'm going to have to now build out a huge team and more legal costs. And you're going to sabotage that in some way.
Right. Like your energy in that conversation, let's say it's like a sales call, is going to say, don't hire me.
His subconscious desire is going to try to sabotage it. And we see this along with people who are single. And I've given classes to men and women who are in their 30s or in their 40s and they're still single, but they go around telling everybody, I am looking for my partner and I just haven't found them yet. And, I'm very picky and whatever it is that they say. The truth is, it's not that they're picky. Of course, everyone's picky, but there's a part of them that loves being single. There's a part of them that loves the freedom. There's a part of them that is afraid that their body will change if they have a child. Right? Literally, someone who's not having a child, or it's hard for them to get pregnant, maybe there's 10% of them that is genuinely scared of losing their body and then their husband not being attracted to them anymore. It's a very subconscious fear. And so that 10% could be enough to cause the soul not to come down. It's a very painful thing to hear. But I share that because we all have to just be brutally honest with ourselves and I say, write your desires on a piece of paper and see what else you really think and feel, and then see where the desires compete with each other. We are causing a clash and it's slowing down the process. Founders who have all their desires rowing in the same direction are the most successful. In fact, the most successful founders are often they can be slightly autistic. They can be slightly neurodivergent, dyslexic. It's because their brain actually is able to not have so many different desires, but they're really just hyper focused on one. And
that
they
makes
become very
sense.
successful. Yeah, MaryRuth is dyslexic. She can't read, but she is so brilliant because her brain, I mean, she can read, but she can't read like at a fast pace. She's had to train herself to read, but her brain works in a way where she sees things years before I can see them.
Interesting.
And she sees things in people that I'm like, it's almost psychic. And so this is why a lot of like Elon Musk, like there's something like there's a part of his brain that is shut down to allow the rest of his brain to be much more focused.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to stay here because I was actually teaching this principle in a course for early stage entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And I was reflecting to them what I had learned through wherever I heard you first speak about this. And what we were talking about is, okay, there's the moment of awareness. Okay, I've got these competing desires. Let's say, so one that came up with this particular group was this fear of visibility. Okay, I want this successful business, but in order to do that, the belief I have is I'm going to have to be so much more visible, and I have this fear of visibility, getting criticism, etc. So this whole snowball
because
effect.
when you're visible, you have more criticism.
The belief that it's going to draw more criticism. So take someone through, let's say they're confronting this fear of visibility for all those reasons. What would be the practical way to actually break that fear and not have those desires compete anymore? Because if it's a true desire to make the impact, to have the business, then there should be a way to get the desires moving in the same direction.
Correct.
Like you were saying.
Okay, so let's walk through that. What will happen if they become more visible? Walk me through it.
Yeah. So let's say in this conversation specifically, it was around this fear of criticism, or what are people in my life going to think, especially for someone who's starting a new business and then it's like a total change in their identity.
Yes.
So a lot of judgment, things in that area.
So
The belief that would come with more visibility.
And it will, right? Because what will happen as soon as you're successful is you'll be judged and people will scrutinize you. Right? If you run for city council, you get a certain type of judgment. If you run for mayor, you get a little more judgment. Run for Congress, more. Senate, more. Governorship, more. President, then people will find the mistake you made when you were 12 years old.
Exactly.
So
the Boy
more
Scout
judgment
badge you didn't earn.
That's right. So
Yeah,
the more
that's so
light
interesting.
you want to draw, which comes with a higher position, the more judgment you attract. And so what this judgment is actually the creator is sending people to judge you to highlight your weaknesses so you can transform them. It's not personal. So my teacher taught me every time you get a negative comment on your post, or somebody like, everybody says, I love you. And the one person's like, I think you're a fraud. That person, and it's painful, you take these things personally. That person is actually sent by the creator. Not that you're a fraud, but you know what? Maybe there's 2% of you that you're still, trying to be someone you're not. And they're just trying to tell you, hey, I want you to be successful. Look at where you could be a fraud. Look at where it is. It's not personal. Look at it, examine it, transform it, and let's go. And those people who actually criticize you the most eventually become your biggest advocates when you transform your negativity. And so it sounds like when a person is afraid to be visible, the need for approval is ruling them. What do we need to transform the need for approval of people to? It's only looking for the approval of the creator. When I was on Lewis's show, he was talking about one of his guests. I think it was Patrick. I forgot Patrick's last name, but he said that what helped him go to his highest level of success, and he's a very successful person. He says when he stopped looking for the approval of people and only looked for the approval of God. And that's the truth. You see some of the most amazing leaders of our time and the people who are achieving the most, if they actually had to consider, does everybody like me? Does this person like me? You think of the president, you think of someone like Donald Trump, you have 150 million people who want you to die.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, that's
half
pretty
the nation wants you to die.
Criticism.
If you think of again, we're filming now, we don't know what's going to happen, but you think of anyone who's the president, half the nation hates you. What kind of certainty you must have? Some of us, when one person looks at us funny, we get depressed for 3 days. You have 150 million people who want you to die, literally, who hate your guts. It requires a very high level of, I cannot look for the approval of people anymore. I must look for a higher northern star. The highest is the creator. So what Kabbalah does so wonderfully is it teaches you how to have a relationship with the creator. So then the relationship with everybody else is important but secondary. Your relationship with the creator should come before your relationship with your kids, before your relationship with your spouse, before your relationship with your consumers. Then you won't need them anymore. So you won't be taking from them. Your relationship with the creator comes first, and then everyone else you could finally give to. Because when you need something from someone, you become a taker. And when you become a taker, you no longer have affinity of form with the creator. And when you don't have affinity of form with the creator, you exit the world of miracles.
And that's not what we want to do.
That is not what we want to do.
That's not where we want to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other topic that you were really talking about in that last piece is when we realize that we've been coming from a place of lack, the difference between the energy behind coming from a place of lack and reacting from that place of lack versus coming from a place of certainty and not needing the approval, not needing the relationship, the connection. There's one example I remember you sharing about, getting
on a podcast?
Yeah, I don't remember where. Now I just sound like I've listened to all the things, but I've gone on a little bit of a deep dive. But there was one example you were giving about like getting this opportunity to meet someone that you really wanted to meet and taking that moment to pause before you rushed into that opportunity, not going into it with this energy of, I need this, or this person's going to, I must have just listened to it because it was fresh on my mind, but I think it resonated with me because, okay, I'll just reflect on this. I'm in a season where there's just bigger opportunities, bigger connections that are available. And I think the thing that has kept me very authentic from the start is there's never a person that I feel like is going to make or break the brand. We've had people that I've turned down for speaking engagements at our events that seemingly have this gigantic audience, but thinking that having that person at my event is what's going to make the event actually takes me out of what makes the event magic in itself. So I understood that energy from that place. And then there's other places where I definitely noticed myself operating from this need for approval from someone, or, I mean, it could be the simplest thing. Like I used to mentor this group of teenage girls. My sense of lack didn't come out more than when I was around teenage girls, just wanting them to think I was cool or wanting their approval. Forget celebrities, but a teenage girl, if she thinks I'm cool, that somehow, really was good for the ego. So this concept of not coming from a place of lack, especially as we launch into a new year and as we're pursuing opportunities, I think the energy with which we pursue these opportunities is so critical.
So the example you're talking about was, I remember a friend had invited me to an event that night and I was tired. And so I said, no, I'm not going to come. So I started to get ready for bed and I literally got into bed. I think it was like 10:30. And then they texted me again and said, you should come. I remember what it was. It was a dinner. It was intimate dinner with like 5-6 people. And they said, you should come because so-and-so just showed up to the dinner table. And I know it's somebody you've always wanted to meet that's going to be good for your business. And right when I saw that, I jumped out of bed. I took off, my pajamas. I put on my clothes and I'm like, I'm leaving the house now at 11 o'clock for this dinner. And I was walking out the door and I said, wait a minute, what's going on here? How is it that I had chosen to go to bed? And now because someone is at a dinner that I know will be good for me to meet, I change my routine and I become this reactive person that needs this guy's energy. And I realized me going to this dinner with this consciousness, already I'm not the God anymore. I'm not godly. I'm not the creator. I'm not of the vibration of the creator. So no matter what happens, it's not going to work out. So I literally went back into my house and I sat on my bed and I said, I'm not going with this intention. Actually, I let it go. I said, you know what? I'm going to wait for another time to go. I only want to go as the cause. And I said, and after I really let it go and I was like ready to go to bed, and another voice came and said, now you can go. It was interesting because it wasn't a game I had played. I said, I'm not going to go and then I'm going to actually go. I actually surrendered. But when you surrender, what happens is when you really surrender, then the creator comes in because now you have affinity of form. So the vibration of the creator comes in. So all of the universal energies come in and then it starts to guide you. But not when you're coming from a place of fear or lack. So you have to first transform that part. And people always wonder, well, what will happen after I transform my fear? How do I know God's going to talk to me? You don't know until you do it. Every time somebody transforms fear and they break through a fear, the divine wisdom will come through. And in that moment, the divine wisdom said, hey, You should go. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I could go. I could not go. I don't care anymore because at the end of the day, the creator controls everything anyway. This guy is going to make me successful. But then I say, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to be a giver. I'm actually going to add value to the dinner. So then I went, and it was a really magical thing because I went thinking, I don't care. Like, I don't care if he's there, if he's not there, if we talk or we don't talk. In fact, kind of the dinner, I was talking to somebody else, kind of avoiding him. Like, I don't care. And then he started to talk to me, and then we started to have a connection. But I know if I had gone out, I would have gone as this needy, like a person, like a panhandler, like, please, like, I need you. And then I'm putting this person above the creator. And anything you put above the creator doesn't have the light of the creator shining on it. So it cannot be blessed. So anything in life, when we feel reactive, which is every time we're coming from lack or fear, in order to connect to instant gratification, we need to pause. That's the first thing I talk about in Kabbalah 1. When you feel lack or fear, pause, say, what a pleasure. The pleasure is that you have the opportunity to transform lack or fear. That's the gift. When you transform that, then the creator speaks to you, and then you can be guided to the next step, but never from a needy place.
How is all of this just influencing your current season of life right now in business? I know you're transitioning into launching a podcast and doing so many cool things, but how is, like, what's the correction that you're currently battling most?
No, I didn't have social media till about 9 months ago. I had no followers. I had nothing. And for a decade, people are like, you should get on social. You should. I didn't feel it was right. Because one of the things I've learned is when I do something, I need like a permission from the universe to do it. And everyone who's listening, like there's one thing that I can kind of share is find the way to hear your permission. Because doing the right thing in the wrong time is still the wrong thing. You have to wait till there's permission. And for me, what that feels like is there's a lot of green lights that come my way. So all of a sudden I see like people saying you should do it, and there's a support system behind it, and things come. Once I see there's a green light, I hyper focus on it. I've learned not to do more than one, max 2 things at a time. So I have my business. I say no to 99 out of 100 other opportunities that come, and you will be tested with opportunities. Do this, invest here, be on this board, start this other company. What about this idea? Start this new hobby. Like, I've just learned focus. And I just came from lunch with a guy, and I remember I spoke to him a year ago, and he's like, yeah, there's another opportunity. I put 100 grand here, I put 50 grand here, I put 10 grand here. Anybody who needed something and he thought it was a good opportunity, he was just throwing his money around. And I said to him, I said, look, I know you're a generous guy. I know that you want to help everybody. But all of these businesses sound good when they're starting, but eventually they're all going to go through their dark period, and you're going to get sucked into it, and it's going to suck your bandwidth. So what happened after the honeymoon period of these businesses was over? Lawsuits, compliance issues, supply chain. And then he got sucked into all of them and didn't have any more bandwidth, and then they all failed. So 13 businesses this morning, he told me, 13 businesses failed. Besides the original 2 that he had started that was always his bread and butter. And I had told him, I'm like, these 2 are doing so well. Why are you starting 13 more? Put your energy in these 2. And now he said, he settled all the lawsuits, and he said, I'm done with these 13. I was going back to these 2. So, $10 million later and 1 year and a couple more gray hairs, he's going right back to where he was before. So whoever's listening, focus and go deep on one thing in a really strong way. And so what I'm learning now is the hardest thing is to say no and no and no again and again and again, unless I know it supports either my business, my family, or like my platform. My platform is all for charity. So everything I do on this platform, I don't monetize it. It all goes to charity. So I will take as much help as I can get. If something supports spreading this wisdom, I will support it as well. And my correction is a FOMO. Like I get opportunities. I'm like, oh, is this? It gets confusing. Is this the creator sending it to me? Is it not? And the way you know is you let it go. And if it keeps coming back, then I'll listen to it. But always let go in the beginning. Always let go.
Just that reminder of the restriction changes the energy if it is something you say yes to.
Correct.
Yeah, that's so powerful. So tell us about the podcast, because you are finally starting a podcast. It's been something highly requested.
Yes.
And I mean, it's such a great platform for the kind of content that you've been sharing. So I'm excited about it.
Well, thank you. So, I mean, I have my Instagram is a main place I put out like bite-sized pieces of content. That leads to what you took, which was a masterclass that I created. It's Kabbalah 1, Kabbalah 2, Kabbalah 3, which is a really well-produced step-by-step look at how to like learn all this wisdom and transform. Like people's lives change like the moment they take this course. And I have about like maybe 4,000 people a month who sign up for that. And it's a pay what you can model. So you can pay $1, you can pay whatever you want. All goes to charity. And in addition to that, people have been asking for maybe a podcast format of the energy of the week and what my soul might experience that week. And so I literally filmed my first 2 episodes yesterday, and I'll probably put out 1 to 2 a week. Very tight, 20 minutes, giving people, hey, this is what to expect this week. This is what Kabbalah says. This is astrologically what's happening. Here are some tools. Here's some wisdom. Here's some of my experience. Go. So I'm trying to create a really tight, practical, not too long way of approaching consciousness for the week to come. So just started. It's called the David Ghiyam podcast. I kept it simple. Kind of like MaryRuth's. A very good branding often is just, I know I'm not going to have to worry about that trademark in the future.
Exactly.
Which is my name. So, and then I can be kind of open with the topics and open to feedback of what my audience wants.
Yeah. I'm so excited for it. And really excited to get to meet you in this season and just get to thank you in person for the impact that the content made and the ripple effect it's having in this community, whether people realize it or not. So we'll link everything in the show notes, of course. That. And, your little side project of this multi-million-dollar health and wellness brand, MaryRuth's, what's the best way we can support there? I mean,
it's funny. I never plugged the brand, but I know. I have a feeling your audience is probably a consumer of the brand.
Agreed.
And there's one product that was my passion project. There was so much spirituality that went to it. But every morning I try to go at least for a half hour to 2 hours of walking and talking to the Creator. So prayer for me is I talk out loud to the Creator and I just talk about anything and everything that's on my mind. And one of the parts of my prayer is I ask, like, what does the company need, or what's the next product that I think the consumer wants? So instead of doing focus groups, I just talk to the Creator. That's my focus group. And the idea came about a supplement that, because I was taking Nutrafol when I turned 38. I'm like, I got to worry about my hair. And I started taking Nutrafol because that's the only clinically studied hair growth product that I trusted. And I loved it. And it's a great brand. But I just had pill fatigue. I was taking 4 pills every night, and something about taking pills at night, like they still feel like they're lodged in my throat when I was sleeping. Because then you lay down, you feel it there. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, we own the largest liquid vitamin brand in the nation, and I'm taking pills. It's like the only thing I take pills for. And I went to the team and I talked to MaryRuth. MaryRuth's like, listen, I trust any idea you have. She's like, hair loss is real. Postpartum hair loss is a thing. COVID was just happening, and just everyone was suffering from hair loss. And we basically created a formula, which was our flagship multivitamin plus double-blind, placebo, clinically studied ingredient for hair growth, hair thickness, fine lines, wrinkles, collagen, and fat loss. Also, it was all in one. And in fact, the team's like, my team pushed back on it. They're like, we're not a beauty company. We're like a family brand. I said, yeah, but MaryRuth wants to solve a problem. Always. So we go where we can solve a problem, and no one's solving this problem. And liquid is more efficacious than capsules. Absorbs better. And then like we can make it cheaper. We can make it more affordable. We can make more clinicals behind it. And it's a multivitamin. So it's like really a savings for you. Finally, I had to push and convince the team. They said, okay, it launched. And that has been the most miraculous product. Everyone around the world, it's become our number one product like this. And it's a number one multivitamin in all of Amazon nationwide now in like 6 months. It's crazy. So that's my passion project. That's my plug. If there's one product I think any woman should take, it's that. It's like it has everything in it and it works.
I mean, it literally sounds like the miracle product in a bottle, everything we all want. Thank you so much for the way you show up in the world, for stepping into this journey and now being willing to share it so generously. It really makes an impact. And there's one question that I ask every guest
Okay.
at the end. It's really an opportunity to acknowledge yourself. I don't know if you struggle with this, of just constantly going toward the next thing, or if you pause to acknowledge yourself, but we just call it a powerhouse moment. It can be anything big or small. That when I ask, what is a recent powerhouse moment you want to celebrate? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Like something I'd be proud of myself.
Yeah.
It's funny. I hate answering this kind of questions.
Good. That's why I asked.
That's why you asked.
You're
it.
welcome.
I would say that for the last 6 months, let's put it this way, for 20 years, I was teaching every night, an average of 1 to 6 seminars a week for 20 straight years. Never took a break. I never went on a vacation for more than 3 days because I felt so guilty. When I had money, when I didn't have money, like any season of my life, I said, no, we need to work. We need to be out there for the people, be out there, like always go, go, go. And then for the first time ever in my life, in the last 6 months, I said, you know what? It was very hard because people had to have intervention with me. and MaryRuth said, you need to go away for like 3 weeks. I said, 3 weeks? And I went to Europe for 3 weeks. That's what I did. And it was the most painful, scary. I'm like, I got kids, I got business. This is irresponsible. I was literally having a panic attack before I left. But I knew it was the right thing to do. And I left. And I didn't do anything besides just be with my friends and be with good people. It was the most life-changing trip. And I was proud of myself. It's funny that my spiritual work was just to take a moment. It's like, take a moment. And I realized all the go, go, go was me trying to fill a lack in many ways. Yeah, you're doing something good, but you're also avoiding something as well. So the 3-week break allowed me to just be with myself and realize I'm great. Like, why do I need to be running away from me all the time? And that's what I learned. I learned that all the hard work I was doing, and because also it was for charity, gave me the excuse to run away from myself. And those 3 weeks, I'm like, oh, I like being with me. And so ever since then, it's been a much different energy. I haven't cured this, but it was a very profound awakening for me. And I know I need to manifest that in a greater way this year.
Yeah. Why do you not like answering questions like that?
And it happens in my seminars, people ask me like a personal question and I will just freeze. I'm not thinking about what I need and what I want. And that's been a big theme this year. Because I'm so focused. It's just much easier for me to solve other people's problems. And then I just kind of told myself, well, the creator will solve mine. And then I've been so blessed. So then I kind of like, well, this is working. But the truth is, this is the season that I need to balance that out and just be like, it's okay to take care of myself. It's okay to be vulnerable and be open with people and have friends. I've never had friends. Yeah. I've always just had associates and students and, because it's just easier.
That's a different energy. It is.
It's easier. So now I got friends, so.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here.